Go.
Number one story in the world, dude. Number one story.
Dude, get to it.
All right, so basically you have, in Europe, you have the national leagues where they play. That's like Premier League, La Liga, Serie A, that kind of thing.
You have Spain, you have England, you have France, you have
every
Italy.
country has their own league. And then you have a continental tournament, or a continental league. It's called the Champions League. And basically all the best teams in every league, the top 4 teams from every league, will all play each other in a cross-national showdown. And
called
the Champions League.
Yeah.
And it's like the greatest, arguably the greatest sporting leagues, like sporting event outside of like the World Cup.
Right.
In the whole world. Better than any other sport.
Every year?
Every year. More than any other sport. More people watch than any sport ever.
I don't believe
That's
that.
true.
That's
Religion.
The best.
Formula One is more.
More people watch Jake Paul than that shit.
Champions League got to get Triller, I think. But basically, what happened is all the teams that were making the most money, so it's like Liverpool, Tottenham in England, Arsenal, another team in England, Manchester United, Barcelona, Madrid, and then in Italy is Juventus, Inter Milan, AC Milan. Basically, all of them were like, yo, we're going to form a super league. Fuck the Champions League. We're going to make our own money. We're going to stream our own.
What about Germany?
None of the German team, none of the French teams went with it.
That's the
drama. That's the rift. That's part of the drama. So basically, they said, look, we're going to make our own league because no one gives a fuck about these other smaller teams. They're not paying to watch them play. They're paying to watch us play. So we're going to do our own league where we're going to make all of our own money. We're going to stream our own games. And instead of, us playing each other every now and again, or maybe risking that we don't make it because we lose to some lower team and we lose out on $200 million to go to the championship. We lose in the group stage to some random team.
That's lit.
We can't risk it, so we're going to start our own league, make our own money. We're going to play our games wherever the fucking highest bidder is going to pay us, and we're going to make all of our own shit. A lot of these teams also, it's important to note, in England are owned by American owners.
Oh, yeah, like LeBron owns one of them shits.
Yeah, he's like a part owner in Liverpool.
Or Liverpool.
And like, what's his name? John Henry is the Red Sox owner, also owns Liverpool.
Yeah.
Okay.
The vice chairman of the Super League is like Kroenke owns like
he owns
Dodgers.
Kroenke.
Yeah,
he owns the LA Rams.
So he's part of this new league. It's like a Spanish chairman and then 3 Americans where you're like, too many Americans on this board, but that's because
and this dude Glazer,
they know how to make money.
The guy that owns the holding company that owns the Buccaneers owns Man United. So it's like basically these billionaires are like, yo, fuck the league, fuck the tradition of soccer, fuck all that shit. We're going to make our own money, stream our own games, and fuck the fans, whatever. We're going to do it however we want to do it. So it's kind of like basically like a mutiny or like taking over the whole tradition of European soccer by billionaires. That's the short version.
You're the only real soccer fan here.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me what's good about this, what's bad about it.
I mean, what's good about it from like the position of the clubs is that they're able to then control, because basically like soccer blows up in Korea, for example, because of Manchester United signs this Korean player and it blows up. This is a few years ago. Park Ji Young or something.
Oh.
I mean, probably a Kim. But basically,
that's the easiest.
Park.
Yeah. It blows up in Korea, and Manchester United is like, that is his name. That's his first name.
Yeah, you just said it. He's like, oh, yeah.
So, for example,
you said that shit like he didn't say it.
Park is his name.
You said it with the energy of, I'm correcting you.
Yeah.
Park.
And I accepted that. Why did I accept that shit? I was like, oh, excuse me. Yeah, excuse me. You're totally right. Park.
Liberal cuck ass.
Yeah, I know. My bad. But basically, they're going to be able to control their own leagues. They're going to be able to control their own games. They're going to be able to make all the money from it. And it's probably going to benefit the players of those teams in a way. They might get a pay raise. And the clubs will be able to make more money. For the fans, they'll be able to watch these, like, the best teams that exist at the time playing each other more frequently. That sort of thing.
Yeah.
Is like some of the plus sides to it. There might be more residual opportunities that are good.
Yeah.
For the clubs. But the negative side is like, one, it is like sort of like depleting the tradition of soccer in Europe. So in Europe, a lot of teams like aren't even necessarily making a ton of money. Like the majority of teams in England aren't really making a ton of money. And they just exist because it's the tradition of the town that the team is in. So like in America, a lot of the teams like will make money. MLS, all those teams make money. This is a thing that Zlatan actually brought up. He's like, yeah, dude, like the MLS makes money. Even though it's not that big, the level's not that good, all these teams are making money. In Europe, they just do it for the tradition of the game, the love of what soccer is over there. And so doing this is basically going to create way more disproportionate advantage to those teams that are playing in the Super League. Because on top of that, they want to take away the Champions League, but they still want to play in their national, like Premier League, Serie A. They want to still play in like their national English league.
And then instead of doing Champions League, they do their Super League.
Exactly, and they're going to make crazy money doing the Super League.
Because they just don't have to share with as many teams?
And they don't have to share as many teams, and it's all the biggest games. And so then they're going to be able to go back to their national leagues with all this money, and they're going to be able to trounce them even more.
Oh.
So these other random teams, Fulham or whatever, like that don't have the money that they do, that wealth gap is gonna be even greater.
And their argument is also like every year in Champions League, that no-name team has a chance for a Cinderella story to come in or play a season in Champions League
Leicester
before
City
they're
in 2015,
relegated.
they won the whole Champions League, and it's like one of the most craziest like upsets in sports history.
Porto in 2004,
Yeah.
Okay, so
it's like bashing the tradition. It's like fucking up the local smaller teams.
Yeah.
It's
why is this short-sighted? It seems to me like this is short-sighted and it could have negative effects in the future.
I mean,
You don't want a too disproportionately competitive league.
It's directly non-competitive.
Yeah.
It's creating basically a monopoly on soccer and making it not free market. Like,
Now, to be
European
fair-
soccer has relegation.
Yes, but to be fair, within their individual leagues, that's kind of where it already is. Like, for example, like Real Madrid and Barcelona are going to be the top two teams no matter what. And then
Right.
maybe another team will like sprout out for a little bit, and then they'll just buy those fucking players. So it's like, when you watch La Liga, it's almost like Formula One, where like the winners have been decided already.
I don't think that's true.
When in our existence have Real Madrid, Barcelona, or Atletico Madrid not been the winners of La Liga?
I think Atletico Madrid won like not that long
I
ago.
just said that. One of those three.
I think he's saying Atletico's not one of the big three.
Yeah,
I guess they're
Atletico's
one
not.
of the big
I don't think they're
massive
going to the Super League. Like, there's been
But still, okay, so with Formula One, right, there's like 10 teams, 2 cars a team, and you know who the top 3 fucking people are going to be, and that's just what it is. There's
Right.
nothing you can do about it. And that's kind of how things are in soccer leagues as well.
in Spain is more so, but like England is less like that.
What about France?
France is even less like that. Obviously, PSG is like the epitome of like big
Right.
money, oil, and sports.
And then what about Germany?
Germany, there's more fluctuation. Again, like there's always going to be the Lakers and
Right,
of,
right.
of the any league, but
Yeah.
it's much more
It
equitable.
does seem like there's much less parity in European leagues, sports like the sports
What does
they
that
watch.
mean?
Formula One.
Parity.
Parity is like the NFL. Anybody can win the Super Bowl any given year.
Oh, yeah.
We're all kind of on equal ground.
Yeah.
The NFL is the most.
Yeah.
And then it seems like Europeans, even though their government is much more about parity and not letting people have too much, the sports they watch, it's all just the haves and the have-nots. Formula One, soccer, whatever the fuck else they play, who cares?
But that's what makes Champions League interesting is that you have all the best teams where, like, for example, in La Liga, there might not be as much open market competition because these 3 teams win every year. Same with, like, in Serie A, like, Juventus has won the last 7, Serie A tournaments. So, like, they always win. But in Champions League, it's way more equitable because it's all the best teams that are competing with each other.
So I guess what I would ask is, like, how is this not a better version of Champions League?
Because, I mean, on the one hand, like, it is affecting all the lower teams in those leagues. So, like, it's affecting the actual quality of the play in the other leagues, telling the other teams, like, go fuck themselves. So, soccer fans...
Just so I understand. Don't those teams already go fuck themselves because they can't make Champions League? I thought Champions
But
League
they could still go... They could still go into the Champions League because
They have a
top 4
chance, I
teams
guess?
from every league.
Yeah.
Oh, it's top 4.
Yeah.
So, okay, it's top 4. So then this new Super League is basically like, let's just do top 2.
But they're basically just saying it's a closed group.
Oh,
It's not even based on merit.
I'm
It's just,
understanding
hey,
now.
I
the
didn't explain
richest
that.
team.
New league.
Got you. That makes way more sense to me and why it's frustrating. Because what I was thinking was like, dude, the top 2 are already decided always anyway
Right.
with these leagues, or at least the top few is all the same, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's a chance you get a sneaker that comes in there at 4, and then they get the opportunity to play on a much bigger stage, make
It's like
much more
Leicester
money.
City was like the
Leicester.
nobody team that comes through 5 years ago and wins the whole thing.
Boom.
How have they been since?
They've been great. Yeah, they've been competing super
So
high.
that money like floated them.
Yeah, exactly. And it changed the whole trajectory of the club. And that's what happens with a lot of these clubs is that they'll do nothing, have this crazy showing, get all this money and be able to buy players and grow the club, and then the whole club flips.
That's okay. Then for that reason, the fact that like it's very difficult, but you can get there.
Mhm.
I believe in the Champions League, and I would believe in the Super whatever it is if they had the ability to get in. But the fact that you're like closing it off, it actually reduces competition even amongst the end.
It's a monopoly. It's directly non-competitive.
And you take away hope.
But at the same time, like what happens in UEFA and the Champions League when a big market team like Inter Milan, for example, like they didn't make Champions League, but they know they're so much better than some other players from other leagues that are in that Champions. They have to sit out for an entire year without those eyeballs, without those jersey sales for that. So for them, they're like, we're always
so they don't want to.
on the global side from a business perspective. You get to keep
This is
the
interesting.
eyeballs on. I'm more willing to watch more of these like crazy matchups between like Real Madrid and Juventus than all of these other Champions League games.
This is really interesting. So what they're trying to do is protect themselves from a random year where they get bumped out of the Champions League and they lose potentially hundreds of millions.
Yeah, and the streaming rights are crazy. Like if they go to the Champions League final, they could potentially make upwards of like $3 million, $4 million.
So I'm looking at this.
400 million.
Yeah, I'm looking at this a little different. I'm looking at this from this actually doesn't benefit Real Madrid or Barcelona. This benefits the team that barely makes it.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean?
Let's say the top 4 teams that make it in the La Liga are Real Madrid, Barcelona, Atletico, and Valencia or something like that, right? Like this kind of really benefits Valencia because they're like, oh, I'm locked in. I'm guaranteed that Valencia might not be in it. But like the teams that are locked in that might not make it some years, like you were talking about Inter Milan, they could lose $200 million if they have a bad year.
Yeah.
But people might not want to watch the games because all the biggest players aren't in those leagues. So like, okay, we're not gonna like, are we gonna watch the Champions League because like random, lower level Serie A teams are in, or do we want to watch those lower level Serie A teams play Real Madrid? Like it's those big money games that people want to watch, and so by pulling all the money out, you basically just tell the leagues like, yeah, no one's gonna watch you anyway.
It's like if the Lakers, the Knicks, Celtics, and whatever other big 3 teams.
No, I'm talking about like if you don't qualify. So for example, he was saying like Inter Milan just didn't qualify one year.
Mm-hmm.
And then the fact they didn't qualify for champions one year, they lost out on all that money throughout the year.
Exactly.
But if you knew you qualified every year because these were the teams that were fixed and in there, now you don't have to worry about losing $200 million.
Yeah, exactly. That's why they're making the Super League.
Yeah,
right.
That now it's all starting to make sense.
At the expense of the other teams in the other leagues that all of a sudden like their big fish are out.
I looked at it like Barcelona and Real Madrid are just being greedy, when in reality it's the team that might not make it sometimes. It's the Inter. Juventus knows they're going to be in, but Inter is like, no, this sounds like a great idea because they could be bounced out some years.
Potentially,
Juventus as well.
Yeah.
Until they got Ronaldo.
So that's the same. That's why a lot of the English teams, I think like right now there's like 4 or 5 that are in the conversation, but I think like 5 more are like, yeah, we would be in it if we could. Like they're like putting in bids to be in it.
Especially if you have a big fan base you want to say, you're saying, I want to serve that fan base year round. So we're locked in.
I'm not a fan of removing competition from sports.
But how do you stop this from happening?
So a lot of people are trying to stop it.
Well, UEFA has...
Sorry to interrupt. This kind of already happens because they do these scrimmages.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen this? Like Real Madrid will come here and play Barcelona in Giant Stadium.
Yeah, I went to one of those.
And they fucking make so much money. And I'm sure that they're like, why don't we just always do this?
And that's the other piece of it, is that they're going to start doing the games instead of doing, Tottenham versus Manchester United, or even like Liverpool, Manchester United. It's a huge rivalry. Instead of doing it in Manchester or in Liverpool, let's go do it in Saudi Arabia. We're going to go do it in Beijing.
Wherever they're going to pay.
We're going to do it to where the highest bidder is, which makes it feel almost more like a money grab. That it's like,
slutty.
You're not even doing it for the actual fans that adore the team. You're not going to do it in the city that like lives on, like Tottenham, for example, is like one of the poorest like suburbs of London. And so much of the town like sort of lives on the revenue that those games bring in. Like when Arsenal comes over to play Tottenham in Tottenham's home stadium, like that stadium like thrives.
The bars around it are going crazy.
Like, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so when you remove that, it's like you're removing a lot of the sustenance even just for local cities. Like,
okay, so there's crazy pushback not only for the fans for the reasons of like here they see that their teams will potentially be excommunicated from this bigger picture, but also because they rely on the business that comes from this.
Right.
Interesting. So there's a lot of like football towns in the way that we have like university towns in America.
Yeah,
like,
it's a college town.
College town.
Live for that. It's exactly that thing.
Wow.
Yeah, for an American, I mean, they're looking at it probably like there's 300 million Americans we can still convince to love like super high-end soccer. There's 2 billion Chinese people that are still fighting for like who their teams are. So yes,
they're in acquisition mode, dude. That's really what.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't see how you stop this. There can be uproar.
There's going to be this.
It.
Well, what's going to happen right now that they're saying is that they're going to try to. UEFA's needed so much reform for so many years, but right now they're saying that they might come after the players. Like if you get traded to another team, they're going to try to penalize people within Champions League. This doesn't. What I don't understand is like what happens if like PSG and some of the big French teams and the big and Bayern don't go in there. How does that? Do you know? How
So
that's gonna
so the
play
thing
out?
with that, like one, the way that they're going to penalize them is, and again, UEFA is not perfect. Like UEFA and FIFA are both corrupt in their own other ways, and which is arguably like why they're doing this, because they weren't giving, like basically all these clubs were like, yo, give us a guaranteed qualifier spot in Champions League. Like you're making us like gut it out in all these games, like just give us a guaranteed spot. Like we're getting players injured, like it's affecting your bottom line because we can't have our stars playing. Like just give us a guaranteed spot.
That doesn't seem corrupt though.
Give
That
us more
seems
money.
fair.
They're negotiating on that end, whatever. But basically, they're saying to the players, hey, because FIFA is its own governing body, UEFA is its own governing body, to say, hey, you play in these games, you can't play in the World Cup. You can't play in the Euro. And that is the biggest stage. And so all these players are like, oh, do I go play for these in Beijing with Real Madrid, or do I go play for Spain in the World Cup? And so now they're penalizing them in that way. And the reason why the French teams and the German teams haven't jumped on is, one, to my understanding, and I'm not positive about this, but the French teams have an invested interest in UEFA. And that PSG is sort of like, in the way that like these other billionaires are trying to corrupt soccer and make their own league, I think PSG is sort of like corrupted UEFA. And UEFA, I think, is like a French governance already. But like they're sort of like in with UEFA, being like, hey, help us out with this, give
And
us
we'll
like a
take
good
care of
deal.
you.
And so PSG is like, no, like we're with UEFA. And then I'm pretty sure the German teams have what they call the 50+1 rule. So my friend David was breaking this down for me. He basically was like, they have the 50+1 rule. So basically the German teams have what they call like fan trusts that have partial ownership of the team. So because they
like
have
the Packers.
Yeah, exactly. So they have this fan trust. And so basically the fans are like, this obviously disenfranchises the fans. So the fans are like, no, we're not doing it. So
So the fans are making the decision for the German clubs.
right.
They don't have the autonomy.
Exactly. So they're preserving the German tradition in Bundesliga to stay with their cities and stay in their league.
Ah.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of wild. I mean, I wonder if could something like this happen, you think, to American sports?
Kind of. They don't have the intercontinental or the international sporting games though, like that. You know what I mean?
But
Like,
couldn't the NFL? I mean, they're the most greedy owners. They're the most. I don't give a fuck. The 6 biggest teams in the NFL be like, yo, we're just gonna form our own league.
Well, that's what Jerry Jones did, right? Didn't he say, I'm selling my own rights to
Oh,
TV? Like,
yeah.
didn't he start this?
Jerry Jones is like a big, as shitty of a GM as he is with football, he's a fucking brilliant money guy. And apparently everybody thought he was crazy because they used to just go to CBS with the TV deals and be like, hey, we'll just take whatever. And Jerry was like, no, we're not doing that. And he was like, fuck that, break the deal. He was like pivotal in them saying, hey, who's the highest bidder? You get NFL games. And now that's changed the league money so much. How much these guys pay? Like $2 billion a year is the most recent deal for ESPN is paying for like fucking Monday Night Football or something that we don't even care about. And I think he went through and negotiated his own sponsorships for his stadiums with Pepsi, even if the NFL was with Coke or whatever. Like he doesn't give a fuck. So if theoretically they want the NFL to be a global game, they want teams in London, they want Jacksonville to go to London at some point. There's a lot of people hoping that happens. Couldn't they be like, hey, they already play a game in London every year. What if Jerry was like, hey, we'll just go play every Cowboys home game wherever the highest bidder goes?
well, you could do that, but you need a certain number of games to sustain the league.